I do believe somewhere out there there's a good, loving, and caring God and caring spirit that would actually care about our plight and try to give us a hand if it knew about it or if it could actually help, you know? And I think that a lot of like a lot of organized religions nowadays, from just from different denominations, not just one denomination, but I just feel like, a lot of them, they kind of it's like more of a mind control mechanism. They don't let you think outside the box and actually understand certain things and certain ways and how life can be looked at different perspectives and different angles, because when you're in a realm where it's constantly, persistently, you know, pain and negativity after negative situation that leads to another emotional, situation that's negative, and that negative emotional energy from all those negative events just keeps making a chain reaction, It's not a good thing at all. So it's like, is this realm really a loving, caring realm where you can lose people that you love in a second, where you can have dreams and ambitions that can be crushed in an instant? You have, you know, invisible enemies and visible enemies and psychological enemies and spiritual enemies and all types of things of that nature. It's like battle after battle after battle, like a Spartan warrior, you know? And then eventually your war blade starts to just break. And then it's like, how much more can you really take? And I also believe, man, that humanity, if it wasn't like caught up in these hierarchies and these social classes and all this negative, things that split people apart instead of bring people together, I think humanity will go a lot farther, you know. But the problem is you have, a bunch of evil psychopaths pretty much that run, things from behind the scenes. And they dictate, how we all live. They dictate the systems of oppression. They do it from the shadows, though, because they don't want to be identified, And it's interesting, you know. I think, free thinking should be something that should be promoted. Like if you notice back in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you had those inventors that were making those like they'll make cars, but the cars will run on H2O, like the cars will run on water and stuff like that, or some of the cars would be solar paneled even in those days, Like you had people that were like a lot more explorative, a lot more innovative, a lot more willing to just take things into their own hands and try to build something. Now we're having a society of artificial intelligence integration, and it's a society that's going to be more reliant on artificial systems. They're already talking about allowing artificial intelligence to dictate whether they should neutralize people or not. Can you imagine that? Like, I played and watched too much media where artificial intelligence systems go offline. They shut down the subsystems. They shut down the life support systems. And then, like, they lock the whole base down or they lock the whole space station down. And it becomes a problem. How can you outsmart the AI because it has control to all the rooms, and you have to find manual backup systems, and like the whole game revolves around that or something like that. And like a damn alien, like alien isolation pops up and chases you throughout it. You know, life can feel like that, man, because there's always some alien following you. There's always some alien type of negative situation that tries to destroy your peace. But like I said, I believe that there's somewhere out there. I mean, it's just me just coping and hoping, I guess, that there's some loving, caring being. And at times we can't connect with this being that, cares about us, whatever it is, because sometimes you get that spark of innovation. You get that spark of creativity. You get that spark that no matter what type of emotional agitation you're facing, that spark keeps you like, it keeps your mind strong through the dark times, through the times where, you know, things become, you know, like a gladiator battle, like an arena of emotional discrepancies and emotional degradations. It's insane how much um, pain people go through in this world and how much mental health is not talked about enough. And they wonder why some people just they lose all psychological functionality and they go critical. you know, you know, because the human brain, man, is similar to the robots. You know, that's where these algorithm patterns are getting all their data and all their data analysis from. They're studying real humans and real human interactions and all that. Like, so of course they're going to get algorithms and get smarter and smarter. They're studying real human brains and then they're integrating that into their systems and subsystems. So it's going to get more advanced. And you got to think about it from now. When this happens and people already are in misery, you have inflation, you have all these things going on. Now, when you have artificial intelligence, imagine an artificial intelligence police force, fully autonomous to do whatever they please. And it's like these are like drones. First, they're going to start integrating them probably like one robot to a squad, slowly but surely get people used to it. Then eventually, they're going to start having like special operations teams where it's just full of just robot humanoids that can come down and hunt you down like the Terminator. It sounds ridiculous now, but I guarantee you they're working on things like that, especially in the classified sector and the black ops sector, of course. So it's, you know, and when you look at it like that, there's always these systems of control, you know, because when you're on social media, you're being monitored. They want to know what you're talking about. They want to know what you're thinking and all that. That's part of the reason social media was even invented. To make it like it was just some accident and put certain puppets and certain people in power. But the whole goal was to get everybody on social media so they can be monitored. Because people post everything on social media, right? You know, so so if they can just monitor that, see what people are thinking, then they can try to persuade and can take control of the conversation. You know, it's why that on YouTube certain subjects you can talk about openly and others you can't without using color coded language. It's just crazy. And then the society makes it hard for you to try to really think about what you really want to do in this world. Like truly want to do, not being forced. Some people they really want to be a doctor, they want to be a lawyer, and that's what their heart truly desires, and they go for it, and they make a lot of money, and they're successful. But not everybody can fit in those preliminary categories. Some people need a little bit more freedom in a way because those are excellent jobs, right? And pay a lot of money. But some people want to be able to do what they truly love for a living, even if they make half of that or even just a little below that, because I feel like we weren't just put on this earth to just, well, I mean, we were put on this earth just to suffer, right? That's what it feels like. But I feel like something inside of us refuses to just go through that just without fighting for something, without gaining some type of soul retribution, some type of accumulation of positive energy from the soul that tells you, don't back down, stand up, fight, be a warrior about it. Think of the Spartans, think of the Romans, think of the ancient Aztecs, think of the ancient German warrior cultures, or think of the ancient African tribes and stuff like that. Think of the ancient Egyptian armies of the pharaohs. Think of the people that stood strong, the 300. So. And you try to get strength from those type of things, because even though life is brutal for a lot of us, no doubt, but imagine if we were like in a Spartan culture where it's like as soon as you turn 15 or before you even turn, like when you're 7 years old, you start getting bred for military training. They start teaching you all types of techniques and things of that nature, And then, like, when you get like 15 years old, you actually step on a real battlefield and have to complete missions and stuff like that just to get your skills up. Then I guarantee it'd be a little bit different because you'd be right there on the front lines. And it's just, if they could get away with stuff like that, they would. And who knows what they're doing in secret. But one thing I noticed is all these systems are designed to just rob you of your emotional dignity. So that's the best way I could put it. That's the best way I could say. Robbing you of your emotional dignity and robbing you of like what you feel what's right in your heart. Some people can just be molded into anything. Other people's are created for specific things and specific reasons. And if they're allowed to prosper in those things, they can show adequate success and they can show that they actually have talent. They actually have skills and attributes and knows what it takes to make it out the mud, as they say, and build their own structure, build their own business, build their own foundation of creation. And at first it looks insane, you know? And that's one thing about it is when you're somebody that's been categorized or put into a box, people just expect you to always stay in that box and always maneuver and act in a certain behavior. because of years of like you training them pretty much to kind of like disrespect you in a way, you know. You see, people get away with what they think they can, you know, and they do what you allow them to do to you, you know. And in a prison type environment, you have to show respect because disrespecting a man in his face or disrespecting any type of form can turn into something bad real quick, you know. It's just like in nature, you know. So it's why a lot of people, you know, after a certain period of time, they lose hope. They lose the faith, they lose the belief, and then they get numb, they get sour, they get cold inside. But you can't let any type of feelings like that have any type of long term effects on you, even though it will. It always leave emotional scars somehow, some way. But it's somehow you have to transmute that pain into something positive, you know? And I don't know normie crap or nothing like that, just real talk, because I feel like they're like that same energy that's manifested when we go through negative situations and negative things in life. That same energy is being consumed by negative entities, yes, but we can take a part of that energy as it leaves us and try to hold it for creation. Like if you get mad at something, feel the anger, feel the moment, because you have no at that point. It's like, of course, because like the entities created it in a way where if you try to hold it in, then you get even more explosive, you know. So it's like your anger is legitimized, right? But try to take a piece of it and try to create something out of it. Something that can just, it doesn't have to make you money, just something that makes your soul happy. Like this society's been so conditioned, and of course they're conditioned because there's consequences to, not doing what society says. There's consequences for being the vagabond. There's consequences for being the loner. There's consequences for not having the right type of looks. You know, it's consequences to not being rich. you know, and it's consequences to be an unattractive guy, whatever you say. It's consequences to all those things. It's brutal. Absolutely. But sometimes we're forced in certain situations. We're forced in certain things in life, do things that are outside of our control. You don't control how you look like when you're born and what you're going to grow up to be. That's outside your control. But that's one of the most important things is people see when people meet each other for the first time, the first thing they do is look at each other, and people subconsciously judge, just instantaneously. And if you're somebody that's not really attractive, they subconsciously just pick up on that, and you can see the energetic, the energetic shift right in the conversation. Certain times. Some people try to hide it or fake it, but you can see right through it. This whole world is like designed to play these little petty games with your emotions and play these little petty games, but you have to be emotionless. Of course you're going to feel emotions, right? But you have to like try to control them in a way that you can try to just try to take it and try to take the pain of whatever negative situation and just try to create something. Even if it's not gonna make you no money, just something, just express yourself. Hell, write a paragraph about the event. If you make music, try to make a beat about it. If you rap or something, make a song about it. Freestyle, get it out. Because holding on to that much negative emotions and the things that we go through, especially guys in our situation, in our position, it's absolutely brutal. Because you're on the battlefield fighting the war by yourself. But, the good thing about it though is if you succeed, you get all the benefits, you get to reap everything that comes with whenever you take over a city or take over a major capital. you know, so that's a good thing. But it's just, I don't know, man. It really feels like this whole dimension is just an ascension of torment. It's like some type of spiritual harvesting prison. It really feels that way. You know, it's like something. I don't know if it happens to you guys, but you guys can be in a good mood or whatever. But something, whatever it is, comes up and tries to take your energy. It's weird, and it's something that's persistent. It's not something that happens once in a blue moon. It's something that's persistent. But that's the world we live in, man. All these systems you see, man, is just from controlling your mind, controlling how you think, controlling what they want you to see and what they want you to believe. They don't want you to be a free thinker that think outside the box. They demonize certain people in history. There's certain people that they'll call a dictator in history, but yet they'll repeat those same dictatorial patterns and paint it under a different flag, and then call it freedom and call it justice. Very hypocritical indeed. I just showed you how this world is, and show you how there's so much walls of deception. There's so much walls of rejection. There's so much walls of just reflection sometimes when people actually really look at it and they get mad and they question the system, And then once that happens, the government pushed back, like in the 70s and 80s and all that, the hippies and all that, or in the 60s, the hippies protesting the Vietnam War, and then the CIA start integrating mind control substances to control the people's minds. It's crazy, but man, the CIA has been doing that for a long time. Controlling how people think. They got bot accounts. They target certain people who speak the truth. It's brutal. This whole society, man, is just one big loose harvesting farm, unfortunately.